What caused all but 8 people to die in the Great Flood? The legal yet wicked laws and behaviors of man. Here we are again living in a system that is doomed to fail, and now the world leaders are planning for the Great Reset. So what will the world look like in 2030? Let's talk about it on today's session. I know some of you are thinking that things will end soon and we will go back to life as it was before. But you should think again, because a new world order has already been planned. World leaders are working on an agenda that will revolutionize jobs, healthcare, travel, the building blocks of nature, and much more. And we need to be prepared to face the evil that is coming. These leaders are coming together around a great reset agenda. And this world will be unrecognizable by 2030. Some of the changes will make it difficult to differentiate between reality and illusion, good and evil. I'm going to share some of the wickedness on the horizon. And then at the end, I want to share a dream that I think you'll find interesting. So let's look at the 8 predictions for 2030 that the World Economic Forum is promoting. Watch this. Did you see that they said you're going to own nothing and be happy? Wow. You won't own it, but someone will, or should I say a certain group of people will. Were you also surprised to see that they're also saying the United States will no longer be a superpower? Now that confirms what we saw in that Deagle report. If you haven't seen that one, go back and listen to part 1. The other thing that stood out to me is that when people need transplants, you won't need a donor. Doctors will just print them. So we see science and technology at the forefront. But isn't that what we've been hearing since this pandemic? Trust the science. So Satan's challenge for the Most High's power is using science, technology, and the occult. We're going to see also, I believe, religious leaders and political leaders come together around these initiatives, church and state. They use religion to get the masses to buy in. Let me prove that by showing you how that was done before. Yes, I have to go here. This is from America's Black Holocaust Museum. It says how slavery became the law of the land for blacks only. And this is from scholar Robert S. Smith. Let's read an excerpt from this. So let's see how church and state came together here. We have the rise of race-based slavery. It says, with a series of laws passed from the 1660s to the 1680s, slavery became codified. With these laws, blacks became slaves for life. So let's look at the timeline. In 1662, a child born to a slave mother is a slave. A child born to a free mother is free. By 1667, becoming baptized will not free a slave. So even though you become a Christian, they would not allow you to be free. 1669, a slave master or person acting under the master's orders cannot be charged with murder for killing his slave, since the slave is his own property. Now they've gone from being human beings to becoming property, chattel, animals. By 1670, no Indian or free Negro can purchase a Christian, but they can purchase Indians and Negroes. So even if the Negroes become Christians, it made no difference. They could still be purchased. And again, all non-Christian servants shipped to the Virginia colony were declared slaves for life. And the church condoned this. Let's keep going. Let's look at this article about the eugenics program. It says, U.S. eugenics program tried to breed out black people. Now, this is what this study found. And this came out in July of 2020. It says a sterilization program that ran in the U.S. state of North Carolina from 1929 to 1974 was explicitly designed to breed out black citizens and met the UN definition of genocide, a study said this week. So one thing to keep in mind is whatever this new system is that's coming, know that it's not designed for you. Religious system, healthcare system, legal system, economic system is not your system. Let me just put that out there. These systems work together to ensure that you remain on the bottom. So let's look at some of the things that's coming down the pike. Let's take a look at some of the things they're doing. This comes from Science News. It says new hybrid embryos are the most thorough mixing of humans and mice yet. Chimeras could usher in a deeper understanding of how cells build bodies. And it gets worse. This article from CNN News, it says scientists made a mouse embryo that's 4% human, the highest level of human cells in an animal yet. And you know these wicked people, they know no bounds. It's 4% today. What will it be next year? This came out in May of 2020. This comes from The Independent. It says groundbreaking new material could allow artificial intelligence to merge with the human brain. This article from the Washington Post says robots could replace nearly a third of the U.S. workforce by 2030. So are you prepared to survive these end times? Let's look at some of the other changes that they're proposing and some of them are already in operation. Have you heard about common paths? Watch this next video.
Common Pass is a platform that lets people safely and securely collect their health information, whether it is a negative COVID test result or eventually a record of a COVID vaccination, manage that information, control it themselves, and then be able to let that information be used to demonstrate that they have had a negative test or they have been vaccinated so they can get on an airplane or travel to another country. For countries, it gives them the ability to actually know confidently that this person who wants to come visit them can actually safely be admitted into their country without risk of exposing other people in the country to COVID. If you put yourself in a traveler's shoes, people want to travel, but they don't want to, and frankly shouldn't have to hand out their sensitive health information to every airline they want to fly, every country they want to visit, every airport they want to travel through. And so I think the balance that needs to be achieved is to say, hey, how can we give, let's say, a country or an airline the comfort they need to know that this person is safe to travel or safe to enter a country without having to reveal sensitive health information.
So what else are they planning? Well, they have it covered in several areas. They're looking at implantable devices that they will put inside of humans. They're looking at the medical arena, wearable technologies, and then non-medical devices that can be worn. So they're talking about implanted chips that can speed up access to whatever information they need in your home or at your office. They're talking about trackers like smart watches, etc. That can basically keep track of everything you're doing. We already know the cell phone's already doing that as well. And then they have devices that can be implanted, like for hearing aid or for eyesight, etc. But also these devices will continue to monitor you, your vital signs, etc. And then this one I was surprised by. They have digital pills. Now think about that. Think about that. Digital pills. And if you read up on this, once you take this medication, let's say your doctor's monitoring you for heart failure, what have you, she can monitor how that pill is working in your body from her computer screen. Just think about that. They're also looking at artificial pancreas. You saw in the video where they just grow it. Whatever they need, they grow it. Let's keep going. Let's talk a little more about this digital pill. It says this pill is developed to deliver encapsulated medicine and monitor medication adherence, which rely on ingestible mini sensors to be activated in the patient's stomach, and which then transmit data to sensors, the patient's smartphone, and other data portals. Now that is scary. It says other examples of smart medical implantables include an internet-connected artificial pancreas, as an automated insulin delivery system for diabetes patients, and robotic limbs for movement rehabilitation in people with physical mobility limitations. In recent years, increasing numbers of people have chosen to implant chips under their skin, not for medical purposes, but as a personal choice to speed up their daily routines and for convenience. All right, I'm going to drop down. It says currently medical and non-medical devices are often subject to oversight by different governance bodies and separate sets of legal regulations and rules in the U.S. For example, the pre-market approval and post-market oversight of medical devices fall under the domain of the Food and Drug Administration, while non-medical devices in the consumer domain are mainly overseen by the Federal Trade Commission. Yet, in terms of their use scenarios, the division between medical devices and non-medical consumer devices is becoming blurred. Consumer wearable manufacturers such as Apple and Fitbit look to expand their products into certified health monitoring devices and to tap into health insurers. Let's keep going. What else can we expect to see? This is from CNBC. It says 1/3 of U.S. workers could be jobless by 2030 due to automation. So we know that's on the forefront. What else? This comes from The Independent. It says by 2030, economies like China and India will hold dominance over the West and influence our decision. It says China passes the U.S. to become the world's largest economy by 2030, while India overtakes Japan. Germany, the UK, and France to become number 3. The economies of the emerging world as a whole become bigger than those of the developed world. So that should be interesting. Okay, now get ready for what I'm going to share with you next. This comes from the Daily Mail. It says 3 men and a baby, first family in California with 3 dads on their child's birth certificate, open up about life as a same-sex parenting throuple to their 2 kids. Polyamorous throuple from San Diego won milestone legal victory in 2017 when California judge put 3 dads on birth certificate. In July, the Massachusetts city of Somerville voted to grant polyamorous couples some of the same rights as married spouses, including health insurance. Let's keep going. This article in the New York Times, this was written by Margot Kaplan, says pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime. So we should expect to see that. Oh, gee whiz. Let's keep going. Are you ready for this one? Is it legal to marry animals and inanimate objects? This came out in July 2019. Well, let's see. This came out in The Independent. It says woman who married dog 8 years ago says he's perfect for her. So watch out, men. Scruffy is now in the competition. Let's keep going. Apparently, this is a thing in India. Human-animal marriages in India. Okay, things are getting weirder and weirder. Let's keep going. But we shouldn't be surprised by this. Romans 1:28-29 tells us, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, for example, we don't want to know what he has to say. We're going to do our own thing. If it feels good, do it type mentality. It says God gave them over to a debased mind. The King James says reprobate mind, to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers. So, yeah, we shouldn't be surprised by what we're seeing. It's going to get worse. Let's keep going. Not to be outdone, this comes from the Daily News. It says 3 men who raped their farm animals to remain in prison. My goodness. This comes from the Times of India. I'm not sure what's going on in India. This says Navi Mumbai, 65-year-old man held for raping dog at the Nurul railway station. A 65-year-old man identified as, and I won't read the name, was arrested on Sunday for sexually abusing a female dog at the Nurul railway station complex. Animal rights activists of People for Animals had been inquiring into this serious matter for over a week after the issue came to light through a CCTV footage at the station complex. You all, I know they're going to say these people are deranged. These people are demon possessed. They are operating under the influence of demons. But these are the things that were happening in the days of Noah. Let's take a look at this. So this comes from Matthew 24:37 through 39. And Messiah is talking. He's telling them this would be one of the signs of the end times. He says, but as the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know, until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So where did all of this depravity come from? Of course, it came from the fall and the heart of man being wicked, after that. But he had some help. And I encourage you to read the book of Enoch if you haven't done so already, because it parallels some of the things that happened in Genesis 6, where it talks about these sons of God coming down to mate with these women. These were angels, spirit beings. They came down and they were having sex with women, and these women became pregnant and gave birth to giants. So it also talks about in a book of Enoch, and I'm looking now at chapter 7 to highlight some things. It says, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, these angels, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms, enchantments, cutting of roots, making them acquainted with plants. So they were teaching them sorcery. And the women became pregnant, and they bare giants whose height was 1,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. So they were so big, they were eating up all of their food. And then when food ran out, they started attacking the men. Then they began to attack the animals, the birds, the beasts, reptiles. They began to modify the DNA. They were having sex with animals. And it says they began to devour one another's flesh and to drink blood, which is why the Most High told his people, don't eat meat with blood in it, because the soul is in the blood. He says, don't drink blood either. This was the way of these wicked beings. Also, to read an excerpt from chapter 8, it talks about how they began to teach them how to make weapons of warfare, swords and knives and other things of that nature. They began to teach them how to make bullets. And that's what this antimony is. They were teaching the women how to make themselves seductive. It also talks about how they were so wicked and they were so godless as a result that they were just committing fornication and leading. They were led astray and became corrupt, it says, in all of their ways. And it also talks about Samjaza teaching them enchantments, and talked about how it taught them taught them astrology, about the constellations, and how the knowledge of the clouds and the signs of the earth and the sun and the moon. And it says This is what caused that flood, that caused the Most High to just wipe them out, so that the only one left was Noah and his family. So this, in seeing this, we can see that these are some of the same things that's going to be happening in the end time, so that we know that the end is near. How do we know that? Because this is what Messiah said. Let's look at this verse. So in addition to all of the depravity, we should also see other signs he tells us about in Luke 21:11. And there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. So we're supposed to see some signs in the skies that let us know that the time is near. His time to return is near. He's talking about fearful sights happening in the skies. But then if you remember in the scripture that we just read previously, it talks about man just going along about his business, eating and drinking and giving in marriage, as if he's just ignoring the signs. I'm wondering if there's going to be such a great deception that will explain away these signs, so that man is just assuming that nothing's really happening. That is really what I'm believing is going to happen. I want you to listen to this dream that I had. Okay, so the dream. I'll tell you the dream, and then I'll show you a video that may shock you. I'll just highlight the main points so this isn't so long. But I had this dream on January 28th of this year. I was in a house with a group of people, and we heard this loud commotion outside. It was so loud we thought something had hit the roof of the house, so we ran to the window to see what was happening. And I saw this strange beam similar to the one in the picture, but it had some type of cup-like cover on the part that was reaching up into the sky that was blocking the moon. And the sky seemed very dusky, as it is in this picture. So we all ran outside, and other people were coming out of their homes to try to find out what was happening. But then all these soldiers appeared, ordering everyone to go back into their homes. They didn't want anyone looking up into the skies. So I stayed. I kept trying to find out what was going on. And we were told that there was something going on with the moon, but the government had it under control. They were fixing the problem. But I knew something sinister was going on, so I yelled out that God was going to fight back against them for what they were trying to do. And this man walked up to me, seemed to be a general, and he was sneering and said, no, God was not going to fight back. And he seemed to be mocking me for even suggesting it. And I yelled back at him angrily that yes, God was going to fight back. And then I went back into the house, and we were still looking up, and we saw them remove the cover that had been hiding our moon. So the moon appeared again, but it seemed warped, like it wasn't the real moon, and the sky looked different, as if it was not the real sky anymore. Now, I thought about this dream for a while, praying about it, what it could possibly mean. I shared it with a few people, and my sister sent me some information about some sun simulation. I don't know a lot about it, but you may be surprised by how advanced their technology is right now. And we can be certain that this knowledge came from elsewhere. After you watch this video, I want you to read Mark 13:24, where it talks about the sun and moon refusing to give its light. That was one of the signs we were supposed to look for as well. So I started wondering, could this be the plan of the enemy to counter that prophecy with deception? So watch this video and then let me know what you think in the comments.
Artificial sun. The artificial sun is China's new generation and most advanced nuclear fusion reactor that was powered for the first time on Friday. China is one of the world's largest economies and is heavily reliant on industries, making it the world's largest contributor to carbon dioxide emissions. In 2018, the country produced 0.06 billion metric tons of the greenhouse gas, according to a global carbon project data released in October this year.
So did you know that they already have the technology to make a sun simulator? Strange, isn't it? Much stranger than that dream I had. It definitely makes it possible that they could have something. I'm not saying that they're doing this. I don't know. But it makes me think that it's possible for them to do something like that. And it made me think of this verse. We go back to Matthew 24:37-39, where it talks about these signs are happening, but the people are just going along about their business, ignoring the signs, and they continue in the wickedness until the end. So we have to remember that Satan knows the scriptures too. We see how those angels were giving man knowledge before the flood that caused them to sin even more. The same thing is happening now. The secret knowledge that Egypt had that helped them build those pyramids, those things were passed down, but they came from demons. And a lot of what we see now, the advancement in science and technology that seems to be happening so quickly, is coming from somewhere. So what I'm wondering is if the signs, that when these signs happen, if they're being explained away like, oh, it's just climate change, it's just global warming, and that is troubling. But now is the time for people to repent and make a decision. You have to choose Yah's way, because his way leads to salvation. The other path leads to death. You have to stop straddling the fence, thinking you can hold on to this world system and his truths. You can't. You're going to have conflict because the two systems are opposing each other. Mankind, particularly the elite I'm talking about, they're following an agenda that is promoting wickedness. You can see that. And we're going to have to shun those laws that are legal yet wicked. If the Most High says it's wrong, don't condone it and don't participate in it. But now we see preachers compromising. I should say religious leaders, they're compromising on behaviors the scriptures say is wrong. Fornication, abortion, homosexuality, all the others. The Bible does not condone those things. And man cannot legalize what the creator of the heavens and the earth says is wrong. Those who will do that, they will pay a price. So in order to endure until the end, you're going to have to prepare for what's coming now. Prepare yourself mentally, because it's not in your own strength, but it's in his. You do what you can do and you leave the rest to your heavenly Father. Noah prepared for the coming destruction. He was saved with his family. Joseph implemented a strategy that not only saved Egypt, but the nation of Israel. He prepared. So yes, the time is here, and you're going to be forced to choose. I encourage you to choose life, because Yah's way is salvation. I hope this has been a blessing to you. Shalom, everyone.